The salt spray in Cape Town's immense harbor held a complex bouquet unique to this place. The raw ocean bite mingled with the coppery tang of distant ports, the dry spice dust from cargo holds, the ozone charge from powerful shore systems, and the subtle, sweet decay of kelp from the cold Benguela current. Captain Ben Carter felt it settle on his lips. A familiar benediction as the Voyager, his command, a state-of-the-art, nuclear-powered cargo Leviathan, eased away from the Vendée waterfront. It was always a moment of transition, leaving the deceptive solidity of land for the vast, indifferent ocean, his true domain. Below Table Mountain, often swathed in its iconic cloud tablecloth, the harbor pulsed with orchestrated chaos. A forest of colossal cranes, bathed in the crisp southern hemisphere light, swung jibs with precision, transferring containers between quay and hull. This was Cape Town, December 2025, the undisputed nexus of East-West global trade. Its harbor facilities, stretching for kilometers along the coast, were a monument to investment driven by an unceasing flow of goods that had to pass this way. Automated railways snaked inland, connecting the port's immense capacity to transcontinental networks reaching deep into Africa and via intermodal systems across Eurasia. In the bay, the gray hulls of naval vessels from every major power maintained a constant, watchful presence, underscoring the immense strategic value of this location. Ben gripped the bridge wing railing, the low thrum of the Voyager's engines a familiar vibration. He wore the standard uniform, subtly marked with the 4 bars of a senior captain. Faint lines of fatigue etched eyes that had seen countless sunrises and sunsets over open water. This was his life, traversing the long path around Africa, measured in nautical miles, in weeks spent beyond the sight of land, defined by distance and the sea's rhythm. He often thought of the Isthmus of Suez, not with regret, but academic curiosity. In the naval academies, they'd studied the Great Failure, the 19th century dream of a canal there promising to shrink the world, had died. Textbooks detailed why. Engineering challenges were formidable with the technology of the 1850s and 60s, unforeseen geology, unprecedented dredging. But overlaid was the immense political opposition from Britain. Ben pictured the caricatures, stern ministers, maps of the empire. India was Britain's prize, its trade routes secure exclusively around the Cape. A Suez shortcut, potentially controlled by rivals like France, threatened this dominance. History books detailed the quiet, relentless diplomatic pressure, subtle undermining of funding, amplified technical doubts. It was a masterclass in geopolitical obstruction. The project, already struggling, collapsed. Subsequent attempts over centuries faced lingering skepticism, immense cost, and that historical opposition's legacy. The isthmus remained unbreached, strategically less vital. Its history, and that of Egypt and the Levant, diverged, spared the intense international rivalries a waterway would bring. The consequences of that failure reshaped Ben's world. Without the Suez shortcut, the vast majority of sea traffic between Europe, North America, and Asia's East Africa had to make the long voyage around Africa. This cemented the Cape route as the trade route, its importance exponentially greater than before Suez's actual construction in our timeline. Shipping times and costs were dramatically higher, fundamentally dictating trade economics. Raw materials, goods, perishables, requiring advanced cold chains developed specifically for these hauls, traversed thousands of extra miles. This demanded more ships, and larger ones like the Voyager, designed for immense capacity, months of fuel endurance, and long-distance reliability. Reliable stops for refueling, resupply, and maintenance transformed ports. Cape Town was the jewel, but others became critical hubs. Durban, serving South Africa's wealth, Mombasa and Dar es Salaam, gateways to Africa and staging points for Asia, Lagos and Dakar, handling Atlantic trade. Remote islands like Mauritius, Reunion, the Seychelles, even isolated St. Helena became vital, fortified refueling, communication, and naval support stations. Their economies became deeply intertwined with global shipping. Naval power strategies were different. Control of the Cape wasn't just important, it was the absolute critical imperative. Britain, having ensured Suez's failure, solidified its advantage. Naval doctrine centered on protecting this choke point and establishing an unparalleled network of bases from the South Atlantic around Africa deep into the Indian Ocean. Ben often saw British carriers or submarines here. The Mediterranean and Red Seas, lacking intercontinental volume, receded in strategic importance, becoming regional waterways. Projecting naval power to Asia always meant the long, vulnerable voyage around Africa. Warships were designed for endurance, range, fuel capacity, and operating far from hubs, needing the Cape route ports for support. Ben watched destroyers escorting merchant vessels. Every major power kept a significant presence. It was non-negotiable. Geopolitics centered on the Cape route's importance. Alliances formed on access, rivalries over control of ports or islands. The great game was on the waves and in ports ringing Africa. He thought of the Middle East, a region still complex with internal dynamics, resource politics, regional rivalries. But without Suez revenues and controlled jockeying, external pressures differed. Economies relied more on agriculture, regional trade, oil, lacking the specific geopolitical intensity from a choke point. Its history unfolded without that powerful magnet for external intervention. Trade with India and East Asia was slower, costlier. This likely influenced colonial expansion, decolonization timelines. Distant colonies might be less integrated initially, influencing Asian development patterns. The legend of clipper ships held a prominent place, symbols of speed before steam nuclear power. Europe's development adapted. Investment in infrastructure to Atlantic ports, railways, waterways was paramount, channeling goods for the long haul. Naval strategies anchored in controlling the Atlantic and Indian Oceans, the Mediterranean playing a regional role. Competition over African coast, island control was intense for centuries, shaping Africa's modern map. By 2025, this history created a world aware of distance, reliant on ancient pathways. Cape Town was the hub, its infrastructure a marvel for constant goods flow. Air above buzzed with drones transferring containers. Sea travel dominated bulk cargo, but transcontinental railways from African ports saw greater investment for high-value / time-sensitive goods. Advanced airships played a significant niche role for specialized long-distance cargo. Ben took a deep breath, the salt filling his lungs. This was his world, shaped by failure where the long way around was the way, trade beating to ships rounding the Cape. He felt pride commanding a capable vessel, a link in the chain. "Captain, we're clear of the harbor limits," Elena Petrova, his first mate, announced. Sharp, reserved, calm under pressure, she was Russian, trained in Northern Fleet academies before civilian command, a common path where long-haul expertise was prized. Setting initial course 145 degrees, increasing speed to optimal transit profile. "Confirmed," Elena then replied, moving to the central console. He glanced at the holographic route, a long arc across the South Atlantic towards the Indian Ocean lake off South Africa's eastern cape, Port Elizabeth, their first waypoint. Weeks at sea stretched ahead. This journey blended routine and vigilance. Ben monitored nuclear systems, automated cargo, crew welfare, making decisions guided by navigator AI and constant data, whether refined over centuries, satellite positioning, other vessels, intelligence reports. Every decision layered upon data from millions of voyages. Rounding the Cape, passing the landmark, was more than navigation. It was history, connection to countless sailors who plied this path for centuries. From Cape Town, the fleet fanned out across the Indian Ocean. Mombasa, Karachi, Mumbai, Singapore, Shanghai, Sydney, destinations connected by this long southern path. Ben had a ritual after clearing port, 10 minutes alone on the observation deck, watching land disappear. Not sentimental, but acknowledging the transition. Leaving land for the empty ocean, accepting isolation. It was a reset. He was a captain of the long haul. This was his element. Life aboard the Voyager settled into the deep rhythm of the long haul. Day melted into night, marked by watch changes, the ship's subtle responses to swells. On the bridge, in the soft glow of displays, the atmosphere was focused calm. Navigator AI handled much routine, but crew were vital, scanning, assessing data, ready to take manual control. Ben's routine was demanding but familiar. Morning reports, consultations, a deck walk to feel the ship's motion, hours on the bridge, brief meals, cabin solitude reviewing manifests, or staring at the endless horizon. The ocean voyage scale was immense. Days without seeing another ship, weeks without land. This life demanded a specific person, self-sufficient, disciplined, finding routine in isolation, comfort in the ship's enclosed world. Ben found his calling. Pride in commanding this vessel, being a vital link in binding continents. But sacrifices were real. Family calls were infrequent, brief, subject to delays. Relationships ashore challenged. The sea was his home, the ship his community. He reflected on this world's difference. Friends on shorter routes, inter-European, coastal African, had frequent port calls, home weekly. His voyages measured in months. He'd heard tales of early nuclear ships, their range revolutionary compared to old oil behemoths. The Voyager was the pinnacle. Speed, capacity, efficiency, crew comfort for weeks at sea. Noise dampening, recreation, a small hydroponic garden Ben tended, growing herbs, his non-maritime hobby, connectivity, a high-tech cocoon against emptiness, but couldn't erase distance. Elena checked atmospheric readings. Holding optimal speed, Captain. Slight increase in swell expected. Stabilizers will handle it. Still no vessel contacts within 1,000 kilometers. Acknowledged, Elena. He trusted her. 5 years sailing together built a seamless shorthand. Elena was sharp, reserved, understanding systems and oceans. Her Northern Fleet background and civilian command transition were common where long-haul expertise was prized. They discussed the Mozambique Channel, a region Ben approached with caution. International naval patrols were active, but coastal instability meant piracy risk, though mitigated by drones, hardened design, was persistent. Without a narrow Suez concentrating traffic, navies, the threat was diffuse, requiring vigilance across vast areas. Tactics were speed, evasion, layered defenses, coordination with scattered assets. A different operational mindset. Days merged, blue sky, gray deck, horizon. South Atlantic blue gave way to warmer Indian Ocean waters. They made the Port Elizabeth stop. Swift container transfer, fresh supplies, a brief hour ashore for Ben to feel ground, grab coffee, before the long leg to Singapore. He had a personal goal to eventually captain a vessel on the rare passage through Drake Passage, around Cape Horn, ultimate test of seamanship in this world defined by ocean distances. A quiet ambition. 2 days from Port Elizabeth, steaming northeast towards Malacca Strait, thousands of miles away, the priority alert flashed. The red coating grabbed Ben's attention. Urgent. Weather. Priority weather alert, Captain. Elena's voice tightened. Developing tropical cyclone system. ICO. Category 3 equivalent. Rapid intensification detected. Ben was instantly alert. Display feed. Coordinates, path, cone of uncertainty. Overlay traffic. Holographic display showed red-orange intensity off East Africa, southeast Madagascar. A thick red path pointed northeast, intersecting shipping lanes, including theirs, 2,000 kilometers ahead towards Malacca Strait. Rapid intensification, Ben murmured, scanning data. Wind speeds climbing, pressure dropping, diameter expanding. Cat 3 intensifying fast in a busy section of the primary route. Not just a storm, potential gridlock for dozens of vessels. Initiate emergency route recalculation, he ordered, moving to the console. Navigator, access all weather models, local, regional, global. Correlate with traffic from transponders and fleet command. Identify safe havens, ports, anchorages, deviation routes. Urgency code Alpha 1 Alpha. Navigator AI, trained on centuries of data, worked instantly. Scenarios flashed, storm movement, intersection times, collision avoidance. Calculating deviation options, Captain, Navigator's voice responded. Multiple scenarios evaluated for minimal time impact versus maximal avoidance. Nearest potential safe haven, Port Louis, Mauritius. Estimated 36 hours transit. Primary recommended deviation, around system southeast, 800 kilometers clear of predicted eye. Estimated transit increase 5 to 8 days, depending on storm evolution. 5 to 8 days. Ben felt the weight. Extra week for a large carrier. Domino effect on supply chains across continents. Delays, empty shelves. Costly. But steaming into a Cat 3 with full cargo and souls? Not an option. Economic cost secondary to human cost. Vessel loss. Open secure comms with Fleet Command, Ben instructed. Patch to Global Maritime Operations Center, priority. Latest intel, coordinated routing, access to highest resolution satellite tracking. While comms connected, Ben conferred with Elena and Lieutenant Commander Anya Sharma, navigation officer, brilliant and focused. They reviewed projections. Uncertainty cone-wide. Priority, get out of cone, divert to port or around safely. Southeastern deviation looked most viable, adding significant time in empty ocean. Captain on the line, secure channel established, Elena said. Ben took the link. Captain Carter, MV Voyager. Alert on ICO, requesting intel, coordinated routing, confirmation southeastern deviation. AI calculates 5 to 8 day delay. Admiral Lee's voice from GMOC was calm, measured. Captain Carter, tracking ICO closely. Rapid intensification confirmed. All vessels in sectors 9 through 14 advised avoidance. Your assessment aligns. Southeastern deviation primary recommendation. Port Louis potential haven for smaller vessels. Avoidance preferred for supercarriers. Coordinating with regional naval assets for SAR staging. Maintain comms, hourly position/status. Will feed updated models. Prepare for longer transit. System unpredictable. Understood, Admiral, Ben replied. Initiating southeastern deviation immediately. Course change implementing. Hourly updates will follow. He ended the call. Responsibility weighed, thousands of miles from shore authority. All right, team, Ben said, addressing the bridge crew, voice firm. New plan confirmed. Diverting southeast. Elena confirmed deviation course/speed with navigator, oversee execution. Anya, plot revised route to Singapore, account for storm, analyze currents, identify alternative resupply points if delay impacts consumables. Engineering, maintain optimal speed, monitor fuel, report anomalies. Elena and Anya sprang into action, faces intent. Ship systems hummed. This was what they trained for, managing routine versus responding to unpredictable threat. No Suez to duck into, no shortcut. Only around the storm, as they always went around the continent. Expertise, technology, readiness, true mitigations of distance. For 48 hours, Voyager revolved around ICO. Updated models arrived, course adjusted incrementally, balancing safety versus delay. Sea grew rougher nearing periphery, ship pitching despite stabilizers. Rain lashed windows, wind howled. Ben stayed on the bridge, focus unwavering, illuminated by weather display. Spoke to crew calmly over intercom, situation, precautions. Checked engineering, engines handling strain. Knew every day added cost, delays, disruptions. But crew safety, cargo security paramount, responsibility, a physical pressure he lived with. He thought of this world's fragile, resilient interconnectivity on immense distances. Storm, port issue, mechanical failure, ripples across supply chains. System built on resilience, redundancy, robust communication/coordination. Suez failure forced mastery of long haul, amplified distance vulnerabilities. They passed closest point to storm edge, feeling its power, safely outside core. Wind abated, rain eased, pitching lessened. Threat passed for them. Other ships might face worse. Then sent query for distress calls, ready to alter course. Mutual support in this world of vast oceans wasn't courtesy, it was necessity, a code among those on the Cape route. As Voyager resumed northerly course towards Malacca Strait, extended by 6 days, weary relief settled. Crisis navigated. System stable. Ship sound. Cargo secure. Ben stood by forward windows, watching sea return to rhythm under a clearing sky. Sun setting, painting horizon orange/purple/red, beauty after tension. Thought about voyage ahead, weeks across Indian Ocean, past India, towards Singapore. The long way. This was global trade in his world without Suez. Distances immense, journeys stretched, demanding patience/resilience. Connections robust, tech-supported, but on different foundations, demanding different mastery, strategic priority. Cape Town thrived because essential. Egypt's history different. Naval projections wider arcs. Absence of canal made world larger, reliant on ancient pathways, human ingenuity. The long way wasn't just route, it was global age's defining feature, one unbreached barrier reshaping human connection, commerce, power. For Captain Ben Carter, it was life. Hand on cool glass, feeling the ship's vibration, cutting waves on the long journey home.